How are you?
Mr. Greenwald was my vice principal for Lake School.
Just amazed and so appreciative that all of you took your time out of your busy schedule, and especially recovering after Mother's Day yesterday, to come and join us today. So again, thank you very much. My name is Nancy Laval, and I'm the Campus Executive Director here for Southwestern Illinois College, and I'm also the coordinator of a very unique program called Running Start, and I will briefly share a little bit about that this morning. But again, I would like to welcome you to this youth employment hearing coordinated by the National Youth Advocate Program. I've worked together with local resident and my good friend Debbie Valencia.
Well, let me go back and answer too, because without her gracious home style stuff, she just opened the doors and this is how it happened. So thank you very much. And her expertise, I would have been lost without that.
Chicago City Clerk, Anna Valencia, is here with us today. And when you're a school principal, you're always proud of those. We want to thank Granite City High School and their CEO students. You'll see them about the room today in the black shirts. They assisted us with all of the logistics. So again, great learning experiences, but we so much appreciate all of your help. Today you can see that SWIC is the go-to destination for individuals looking for careers in the technical fields, and it's not uncommon for our local manufacturers to hire our students right out of the program. And those future jobs could belong to students that are in our audience, are individuals that you know. Representative Katie Stewart, who represents this area in the 112th District. So Katie, if you'd like to say a few words.
Thank you. It's great to be back here. So I have not been doing this job very long. Prior to this, I was actually a teacher and taught a couple courses right here on this campus, taught a geometry class with a lot of non-traditional. The importance of technical education is not lost on me at all. When I taught at the high school, I found that frequently I saw the most success when my students could see what we were doing in the math classroom relate to things in other places. And when I had students taking a drafting course or another course and we would talk about a hexagon and then they would see a hex wrench, they would understand how all those things go together. Empowering people to want those types of jobs, to show the quality and the value in those types of jobs, and how, I mean, many of those jobs are far more high paying than any job I've ever had in the education sector, with a whole lot of education and degrees under my belt. We call them shop, now they call it industrial arts, but areas. And it saddens me to see that those all close. And I would like to be part of the force in bringing that back. So I wish I could stay and hear more today. I actually have to get up to Springfield this afternoon and I have a lot of stuff to do in the area. So thank you for letting me talk to you for just a few minutes, and thanks for putting this all together. I think this is a great event. Thank you.
The task force is made up of different kinds of folks, and the whole point of that is to be able to gather information from the entire state of Illinois, not just Chicago and Cook County, or not just Southern Point and Carbondale, but more sort of grab all this information, compile all this data, and in compiling that data, give that to the governor and the General Assembly to try to share that these problems exist throughout the entire state. Being represented to say, hey, maybe we need to consider changing our curriculum and as part of what we're teaching in the state as requirements, so we can start to fill these gaps. Or even when they have a job, being able to have the support services and resources, food, shelter, therapy, any of these support services to keep this group.
Evening, fully accredited alternative ed high school, very similar to the ones that have been going on for years in Belleville and in Alton. And when I say alt ed, it's not because these students are problems as far as behavior. It's because they've got some issues. They have that determination to be successful, but that conventional school from 7:30 in the morning to 3:10 every day just isn't for them. So we are trying to embrace things. As Rhonda and I talked before things started, we are willing to go outside the box. It's not easy to get a program like CEO going, but here in Granite City, we not only want to continue doing what we're doing, but reach out to others. We now have a 26-year-old person that's a former graduate that is in his second term as a elected school board member. We're including the young people. We also have now, this will be our second year, a high school senior that is a student advisory member of the school board. So I fully do believe that we have to listen to the young people. They have to partner with us to be able to move forward for the type of leadership that, okay?
You, Rick, you and then Ed.
I would say just to kind of pull it all together, we do have enough programs. We have more than enough programs. I think the issue, like Dave said, is we don't have the appropriate relationships. So all of us as not-for-profits or all these different program coordinators, we don't always communicate in a way that's most effective to help these youth. The youth employment problem is not really a huge problem. If we were to kind of, instead of letting our programs kind of overlap, just kind of get together and make it to where we communicate more effectively. And the relationship piece is not just between the programs and the kids, but it's also between the programs. And the problem that we have is kind of, I think, the leadership. It goes back to a conversation that Mike and I had a couple of weeks back. If the different nonprofits and the faith-based organizations, community-based organizations were to kind of get together and kind of bring that leadership together, then we could kind of attack this problem a little more efficiently.
Yes, Rick.
I think we got to get away from the me aspect of this too and into the we aspect of it. Again, all of these are here, but you're right, we don't have those relationships. For the homeless population, we have a one-stop. We have the connectability. We have the resources for housing resources. I mean, we have the ability to help with interviewing techniques, with building resumes, with all of that kind of stuff. But you don't know it because we're not connected. We're too focused on our own individual programs. If the people running the programs would speak with each other and vet each other, so you knew what was really a viable, valuable program, who was sincere, who was legitimate. When you get into an R3, when you get into a Head Start program, upward bound, outward bound, building the futures, and you can begin to connect with some of those really, truly engaged programs, then it makes our job a lot easier. Then we have more people working together, more people vetting that individual. An individual might not care. You may not care whether you disappoint me, but you care if you've disappointed Mr. Blank. So, I mean, that's where we have to engage. That's where those relationships come in. That's where we have to be able to partner.
Thank you. Young lady in the back, who's
So I-
quietly been filming us.
So I think the biggest thing is I have a mentor. I have always had a mentor. I've been in the band program and now I'm in journalism. But I think that we forget that we are our own entities. You've taught us everything we need, but now you have to give us an opportunity to walk away and do it ourselves. Today we are not with our journalism teacher. We are completely here. We're self-sufficient. And I think the biggest thing is you guys have taught us everything we need. Now give us the choice to do it. Give us those options. We are here by connection of Mrs. Greenwald and CEO, and we thank you guys for that because Mr. Carter couldn't come today, but we're still able to come. We have to make these bonds where maybe they're not there, maybe they're not always at our side, but we have to be able to come out here and do this for you guys.
Thank you very much.
Do you mind if I segue?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Sure. Okay. Well, like she said about us being independent. Well, freshman year we have this summer class that we were supposed to take, which was called Career Pathways. And basically, what you did was you learned how to build your resume, interview skills. You did a mock interview with your teacher, and it really helped you know what to do when you got out in the real world. Sorry, I can't say my R's. But and I think it ultimately lands on us. Like, what do we want to do? Because I think this generation nowadays is kind of really seen as lazy, and then half of us are seen as really go-getters. And I like him. I work at Taco Bell, and I work 65, 70 hours every 2 weeks also, and I still go to school. I still make great grades, graduating in June. And I think it's just on us. What do we want to do? And it is about building them relationships and those connections to different people, and it's basically ultimately on all of us. What do we want to do with our life? Do we want to make them connections and all that good stuff?
So I just wanted to thank all the students for being here. So I graduated from Granite High School 2003, and I was first in my family to go to college. And so my parents, really, we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know how to apply for college. We didn't know how to apply for scholarships. And I had a really good teachers and people that invested in me. Mrs. Ames, who's a student council representative now. And she helped my mom and I through the process of how to apply for college, how to apply for financial aid. And then when I got to college, I was able to get scholarships. By the grace of God, I graduated. So my story is similar to a lot of the students' story where my parents didn't have a large network. They didn't have access to doctors and lawyers of who I wanted to be. In fact, I got an internship because my dad was having to paint a lawyer's home and mentioned my name, and he was running for judge. So that was how I got into campaigns. That's how I got into politics, to speak through an internship my dad helped me get. So what I think is so important, and I'll go back to, is mentoring and exposure. And now that I'm actually a government elected official, I'm taking what I learned and from my hometown and also from just what I've seen to give back. And I will challenge government, and I will challenge this task force to be more than just words. And what this task force needs to be and what government needs to be is we need to blow up the model, because it hasn't worked. It has not worked for our communities of color and our communities of low-income communities. In fact, there wasn't even going to be a task force meeting here in this region unless my husband stepped up and said, no, I know, got my mom involved to run this, and I'm thanking everyone for being here because I know people were skeptical of what this would be. But I think it's a challenge to government because I know it can be blown up on the inside because I'm doing it right now as an elected official. That we have to be accessible. We need to be in public libraries. We need to be in schools. We need to be in parks. We need to make ourselves available to the community with evening hours and Saturday hours. And that is so important because the working families can't get there from 9 to 5. It's not a model that's sustainable, and it's not a model that's working. So I challenge anyone I think leadership matters. I think that our leadership needs to reflect the populations we serve, which is very important. Mr. Greenwald was my vice principal in Coolidge at middle school, and I've seen him rise to the ranks. He was very vocal about education funding. He was out in Springfield doing his part on making sure the formula is more equitable, so there is education funding. And so we need more leaders to do that hard work, to do the flex days, to think outside of the box, because if you're in leadership, you have the privilege of thinking outside the box. And as government, you can also convene people to talk. So if people are talking out of silos, you can convene people to come to the table and think about how their assets can be reallocated. So I just wanted to thank you for being here. It's really an emotional morning for me just to kind of come back and see these students and what possibility. But a mentor is so important. And you can't just I think it's so important to re-engage the students that are outside of the high school. So you can't lose sight of the students that are in the high school also doing the right thing, because they have family issues too. They just may not be showing it. So I think it's not an either or. I think it has to be an and.
I just wanted to touch back on partnerships. So I'm going to put my Jennifer Foster hat on, and Val's probably going to attest. I don't do it as well as she does. But Jennifer is our Director of Adult Education and Workforce Development. One of the things that she's been working on and our adult ed staff have been working on for a very long time now is WIOA. And one of the things that WIOA tells us to do, the Workforce Investment and Opportunity Centers, as was mentioned, where you can walk in and theoretically, ideally, find all of these programs and services that are available to you and are doing great work and have, ancillary services provided at their sites. But if you walk into one program, or if you contact my agency, is there an ability to go from that agency to this agency and this agency and this agency? And the answer to that is probably not as much as there needs to be. So I think one of the things that we should challenge each other to do, maybe as part of the task force, but definitely as part of WIOA, is not just focusing on the one-stop shops, but how do you get there if you're starting from my spot, or if you're starting at Val's program, or if you're starting at a program providing services to homeless students. How do you connect? How do you make those connections to all of our programs that are already doing really great work? And that's something I think that we need to start focusing on better.
So, Mark, real quick. Sure. Piggyback. One partner that you didn't mention is probably the most important partner, which are the businesses. I mean, we can provide all the programs we want, all the services we want. We all the final customer is the businesses, so we need business involvement, business partnership, and those opportunities at the end of the line for this to be successful. I mean, all the government and nonprofit agencies can sit here and meet all they want to, but without business involvement and those business commitments, it means nothing. So.
In our hearing, this is, just so you know, this is the second hearing that has taken place. A third will happen in Mount Vernon, one up in Peoria, Rockford, and one all the way up in Waukegan. And at the one in Chicago, because what you just said, we ended up ensuring that all the government and elected officials that were there connected with each of the businesses. Because some of these businesses are essentially workforce development programs. And it is not to take money away from programs that are not for profit or government based. It's to assist these folks in continuing to hire, because some companies, I'll use a security company in Chicago, it's the largest minority-owned security firm in the country. They pay for every aspect of their young people coming to work. They pay for background checks, they pay for training, they pay for certifications, they pay to keep their license active. When government officials heard this, like, whoa, because they started adding, this is at least $600 to $700 per employee they're bringing on, and they have over 4,500 employees. As a result of that, they said, you know what? We are giving money to these programs. We don't want to take away from them. Let's see if we can get these organizations that are in your community to team up with you, and they start sharing these dollars with you. Obviously, the company does not necessarily want to take the money, but they're saying, okay, rather than us providing all the admin support, we'll let these government entities provide the admin support from our offices. And so these are the kinds of things we have to start thinking about, and that's the point of these hearings, because everything you're saying today will be part of the report that we're submitting. And that report's going to be public. It's just not going to be for government. It will be for businesses. But we've got tax incentives for businesses to bring folks to work, and we also are now looking at workforce development dollars, because a lot of these companies are doing that.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Just kind of taking it in today, and appreciate Deb inviting me, but as I'm listening, I'm kind of putting my counselor's hat on as well. And by the way, I'm the first in my family to graduate college as well, and kind of worked up through the ranks. But one of the themes I heard Deb mention and somebody else is just that those basic needs, and that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and food and shelter and self-care before you do all of what you need to do. So from the behavioral health, from the mental health and substance use arena, most people may know, but we have an opioid crisis in the Metro East and across Illinois and Missouri, and 84 Madison County residents died last year of opioid overdose, and 64,000 in drug overdoses, and 43,000 of those nationally were opioid. And so how that ties into what I'm trying to, how does that tie in? So there's a great article last month in the St. Louis Business Journal in Missouri, the $12.4 billion impact, negative impact to businesses because of the drug issue, and $504 billion across the United States. And some may know, some may not, but if you have a substance use, you likely have 60 to 70% chance of having a mental health disorder. So that's self-care and getting yourself straight, and those people that have a co-occurring disorder, mental health and substance use, are dying 20 years before everybody else at 54 years because they don't take care of their primary health needs. So how do we fit into this? How do we fit into helping out? And I think I've heard it across this room from the audience and from the panelists, is we have to be part of the partnership and be sitting at the table. And whether it's us or another agency that does like things. I remember, and it's before Mr. Holmes, I think, came to an organization called Slate over in St. Louis in 2006. We had a workforce program over there, and it was for at-risk youth. And we said, we can get them all the job training they need, and they can be ready to go out in that workforce and do what they need to do. But when they go to that employer and test positive on that first drug test, boom, we're back to square one. So how do we do better? How do we think outside that box? So my piece to this, and in June, we have a ex-offender job fair, and we're partnering with the Manny Jackson Center in Lewis and Clark. It's kind of reactive. We don't really address mental health and substance use because of stigma, because of access, because of funding. How do we become proactive? I love the young adult employment block party, and be proactive for these type of things. And how do we fit at the table? I think it's just, we're a piece of that puzzle.
And the puzzle can get all the way put together, and there's other agencies in here as well, but if that one piece is left out and you ignore, when we talk about relationship, when you ignore that inconsequential stranger that's in the room, that can be a problem. So all of this is just amazing to me, because we're talking about how do we all play in the sandbox and save lives and be better. So that's my statement.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, we're working directly with those 16 to 24-year-olds that you're talking about every day. And, you know, James, you know, you talked about a 17-year-old coming into your home with, without any support for the first 17 years. And when we're looking at the funding that we have for all of these programs, we're trying to pass people through quickly. They have a year of funding, you know, for this one student. How do you address 17 years, you know, of problems in that 1 year? You know, I feel like we really need to fight for the funding to be longer for each student that we're serving. Because when we have them coming in, you know, we're addressing all those needs, then we're trying to help them to get their diploma and that hands-on training and those soft skills. And we want to say a year from now, you should be able to do all of this and get a job. And it's just, you know.
That's not possible.
It's fake, it's ludicrous in a lot of cases. It's putting a Band-Aid on a problem that we know are going to blow up again, and it's just like ex-offenders. You know, we can talk about giving people second chances, but if we don't do something legislatively to deal with the criminalization, that we put people in prison for non-offense fines, for drug abuse, that they needed help, but now they got a federal record. You cannot solve that by just talking. You got to change policy. Policy's got to be changed because somebody made a mistake. But white collar crime, you can go get a job. And everybody turn their face on a white collar crime. You know, but when we talk about the people that live in this community and they're trying hard every single day, they're being stopped by us because we have a legislation that kills them. I mean, I'm gonna run your record. You don't even know what your record says. Most people, they don't know, because you go to jail, and there was a prosecutor, and when the court puts it in, you say, well, no, it was drug possession. No, it's not my drug possession. It was something else. Well, how did I know that? People really don't understand what their record's all about. And if it's 20 years from now, how do I remember that? But I think we got to do something. You know, you got some professions that will learn in. Construction, depending. Or, you know, if it's not a sex crime or murder, you may be able, but most of the sectors won't. You're going to have a problem. You cannot work in healthcare.
And a lot of our technical jobs, you know, our technical training is geared towards males, ideally. And, you know, to be able to market to females to get into those industries and know that IT is for them, construction's for them. They may have the same backgrounds that a lot of our male students have. The only hands-on industry, it seems, that we can, you know, train them in is healthcare. And they're having the same issues. And so,
sorry, but I told you I was going to keep you on time. And we'll allow Sierra to finish up before I turn it over to Riyadh here in just a second.
I like what she said about touching on the fact of being a woman and thinking that, oh, well, the only field I can get into is the health field. Well, I kind of had that issue myself, being a young African-American woman coming into the trade. I didn't, like, my grandfather or my dad didn't set a stone for me, so I had to go out. And there were literally places that would tell me, like, oh, well, if you don't have family or you don't know anybody, we're probably not going to hire you. So it's like being discouraged, that sucks really bad. So I think a lot of it comes down to what we're doing now. Coming together and actually letting people know, like, I'm open to trying. I want to give you a chance. Because people feel discouraged before they even get up to the plate to try. So I think it's just about motivating and letting people know, like, it's okay if you try.
You're in.
I think that there should be less pressure, less discrimination in that hiring process, and that's what really unmotivates students these days because they feel like they can't make it.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you all for your attention and for allowing me to moderate you. I really didn't have to do a whole lot there, so I thank you all for that. And I want to thank you for being here and caring, first and foremost. I think at this time, it's time to turn it back over to Riyadh, or?
So if you guys came in, I've got a lot of notes on this, so please skip the notes. This is the report I was telling you about, and it actually just was released today, about 30 minutes ago at 11 o'clock in Chicago. We were doing a press conference talking about this, and what this report basically tells us, I'm going to sum up a couple things, but one thing is that it's just not male, it's females, and females are actually impacted at a much greater rate when it's coming now. They're starting to see this to younger people in incarceration and unemployment. And it's pretty astonishing because we do kind of seem to think that it's specific to just males or to just one racial demographic. And so it's a really great report. Please grab it. It's got a lot of data, like I said, around the entire state. It focuses on 4 counties outside of Chicago and Cook County because these counties signed up to participate. But what it does is it does share for each of the regions. And kind of one of the things I wanted to highlight is that if we're looking at St. Clair County, they actually have the highest percentage in the entire state of youth who are both out of school and out of work, and it's 11%. And if we look at that, that's 16 to 19-year-olds. 11%, not just are out of school or just out of work. We're talking about, this is the combined. Remember I told you there's 3 groups here. Out of school and out of work. So these folks aren't getting high school diplomas, and they're not also getting any kind of job or technical skills or the opportunity to work. So that's the first thing I wanted to share. But what's odd about it is the 20 to 24-year-old range in Metro East actually is not the worst in the state. The worst 16 to 19, but not the worst 20 to 24. In St. Clair County, it's at 22% of 20 to 24-year-olds are both out of school and out of work. And then in Madison, it's 16%. Obviously, those are still very high numbers. But it's not the worst, and it's so odd just that 16 to 19 is impacted so greatly. In addition to that, there's a bunch of more information and data. There's a lot of comparisons between the different regions. If you just happen to pick up the report, what they did a very good job this time is they provided tables not just by racial demographic and gender-wise, but also by age. It also talks about the various kinds of jobs and industry sectors. Another thing it does that's very well, that we appreciated more this time than previously, is the actual maps. And so it's showing each region and counties what their percentage breakdowns are for each of the 3 demographics, so please grab this. Before we close, I just wanted to send a big thank you to Nancy here at SWIC for kind of championing everything that's going on here and allowing us to be able to host this here. This just isn't a thank you from our state task force, but also for everyone in this room and this Metro East community. Because if you guys didn't show up here, we would not have any information, or your voice would not be heard to be a part of this final report. Also wanted to send a thank you to Mark. I don't know, there he is back there for moderating. I know we got a very good, lively discussion that has not happened at the previous hearings. In addition to that, there is a hearing on June 14th or 15th in Mount Vernon, and then also June 25th up north in South Suburban Chicago. And I wanted to close with the very biggest thank you is to Debbie Valencia for housing and hosting us here. So please. Everything. Remember, I told you no government money was spent on this. It's all of our individuals a part of this task force paying for it. So she's an employee of National Youth Advocate Program, so we greatly appreciate you setting this up. And the last thing, don't let this conversation stop. And not just the conversation, but actual solutions and action. Every single one of you not just shared a problem, but you shared a solution. And that was the whole point of this. It's very simple for us to wait 6 months and produce a report. But if you're not here doing it here at the community level, at the grassroots level, whatever we submit in Springfield or in DC means nothing. Absolutely nothing. So, implementing those solutions, and very much so, thank you to everyone. Thank you for some of the media that was here. We appreciate you guys sharing what's happening here. Take care.